Shalom, shalom, Israel. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. Ba'ashema Mashiach Umarak Yabushai. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, which the world calls God. And Yahweh Shai is the name of His only begotten Son, who the world only calls Jesus Christ. I want to give a strong shalom to all the mighty men. They're going out there, they're laboring, presenting their bodies as a living sacrifice, doing all they can to wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel, right? Not only that, but they're enduring the elements, the 100-degree weathers, the freezing below codes, and everything that's trying to hinder the work of the Most High. Shalom, shalom. I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty Akwath, the sisters that are out there through the Spirit, reverencing their husbands, being teachers of good things, and the unmarried sisters as well, being tender, delicate, and on fire for the Most High God. Shalom, shalom. I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty teenagers and children in this truth, doing all they can to make their calling and election sure in the last days. Brother Tazamah coming at you with another cold cut through the Spirit. And the topic of this cold cut is titled, right? You better not get comfortable, man. Right? The topic of this cold cut is, you better not get comfortable. And we living in the last days, man. You can't get comfortable, laxy-daisy, complacent, stuck inside of this trance, and you're not going anywhere. Where's that at in the scriptures? Hey, now is the time to examine. You always should be in examine mode every single day. 365 days a year, right? 24 hours out the day, 7 days a week. You got a lot of, you can't get comfortable in this thing, man. Right? You got brothers getting comfortable, already complacent, just getting in that spirit. Hey, as servants of the Lord, that's a spirit we can't operate in. Right? So again, the topic of this cold cut is titled, you better not get comfortable, or else you're going to lose your spot for eternal life. And you're going to be here with the desolation of the wicked in the last days. Let me bring this out. Let's kick it off with the book of Hebrews chapter 6. Right? And it's all through the Spirit. This is the book of Hebrews chapter 6 and verse number 12. Let's go to the book of Hebrews chapter 6 and verse number 12. I'm going to start at verse 11. It reads, and we desire that every one of you do shew the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end. So you have to be diligent unto the end, man. You can't be diligent for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, right? A trimester, a semester, 2 weeks. You have to be diligent leading up all the way to the second coming of Yahushua. No comfortability at all. No complacement at all. Even in the sports world, they tell you men and women that get complacent, guess what? They don't have room for improvement. They don't live up to their full potential. They stop. They're doing good, but guess what? They can't finish. They start to build, but they can't finish. So it says, and we desire that every one of you do shew the same diligence to the full assurance of hope unto the end, that ye be not slothful, but followers of them who faith and patience inherit the promises. So the Lord said we can't be slothful straight up and down. And when you examine our forefathers, our righteous forefathers, none of them was complacent. They wasn't kicking their feet up and say, you know what, I've already attained. I think I did enough here. You got certain brothers, they getting their snuggles in, getting in their PJs, right? Spending all their time doing God knows what in the bed, right? Taking days off. Guess what? You can't take days off in the truth. You gonna learn that the easy way, or you gonna learn that the hard way. It's up to you. But guess what? It's no days off. When there's literally no days off, that's literally no days off. It's no days off of sweat, blood, tears, fighting, pain, afflictions. Things not going your way. You being in unfortunate situations, but you still have to fight. So you got to get this drilled in your head. Because if you get to that point where, you know what, think I did enough, I've obtained already, right? Let me take a, you had this one brother, he said, guess what? Hey, I'm finna take a vacation. I need to clear my head, man. And the brother went to Vegas, right, for 3 weeks and came back, guess what, in more horrible shape than he was before. All because of what? He wanted to take a break. He got complacent. He stayed the same. A wise man once said, hey, the lack of changes causes things to remain the same. So let me bring this out in the book of Luke chapter 12. Right? It's no time. And we hate comfortability. We don't like being comfortable. Because with comfortability comes slothfulness, ease, rest, poverty on a physical and a spiritual level. Guess what? We want to work hard 24/7. We want to get this thing out the mud. We want to get it from the gutter. You have to have that same mentality and the truth. It's the book of Luke chapter 12. Right? This Luke chapter 12 and verse number 15. And he said unto them, take heed and beware of covetousness, for a man's life consists of not in the abundance of things which he possesseth. And he spake a certain parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentiful. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room, where to bestow my fruits? And he said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. This is the point, verse 19. And I will say to my soul, you don't want to be like this man. And when it means say to your soul, that's not literally you talking to yourself. You just talking to your soul through a walkie-talkie. That's you talking. That's you. Those thoughts coming into your head. The spiritual demon Satan putting those thoughts in your mind. Right? It says what? I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much good laid up for many years. Take thy ease, eat, drink, and be merry. And you don't want to be like that in this truth. You don't want to say, you know what? I already obtained a certain amount of knowledge. I already got the breakdowns that I needed. Right? I already got the wife that I wanted. I already had the children that I wanted. I already had enough feast days that I've been to. What else? What's more? You don't want to be in that spirit, man. This man, he said to his soul, hey, guess what? What should I do? Let me read that again. It says, and I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thy ease, eat, drink, and be merry. A lot of brothers, you taking your ease right now, man. Your foot not on the gas. You easing up off the gas. You starting to hit the brakes now. Right? You starting to run out of gas. You starting to get exhausted. You're running, but you're getting winded now. Don't be like this man and you starting to take your ease. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So what if you've been to so what if you experienced all the feast days? So what if you obtained the knowledge that you think that you even had? Guess what? It's always more learning to do. Right? It's families to build up. It's more unity camps to go to. Not that it's just about going and count, because it's not. Right? It's about building up your little sister, your little brother that you thought would never come into the truth, but now he's starting to hearken. Taking time off, guess what? Spending with your family to help get them spiritual built up. Spending time with the youth, because you know they're the next generation that's coming up. Making your body live in sacrifice for the whole nation so they could be edified. These are things that it takes. And what you gonna come to find out, guess what? You gotta be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Right? I'm gonna say that again. You have to be uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You're not always gonna be in your best estate. This is not the kingdom on earth. We got a lot of brothers. Why is this happening to me? I was doing well off. I had no problems. Well, guess what, brother? You got to suck it up. The Lord told you these things before it happened. I'm going to read that again. I'm going to read on. It says, but God said unto him, Thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then who shall those things be which thou hast provided? And that's why you don't want to get comfortable, and you better not get comfortable, because you never know when the Lord going to requite his soul of you. You never know when the Lord is going to command his spirit, and next thing you know, you're in the third heaven. You don't have any more works, or all hell breaks loose, when guess what? All of the works is tallied up to where you can't score no more. You don't want to be like this man. The Lord called this man a fool. Verse 21. So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. And you got a lot of brothers in this truth, they like that. You laying up treasures for yourself physically, but you're not spiritually rich toward the Most High. Because you comfortable. You love it here. You want to get that one rest, that one sleep. Guess what, brother? That one day off, that rest that you think you looking for, that you're going to get, you're not going to get that. Why? Because this place is not your rest. Let me bring this out in the book of Sirach, chapter 5 and verse 1. Right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 5 and verse number 1. And it reads, set not thy heart upon thy goods, and say not, I have enough for my life. You don't want to say, I have enough. Guess what? You can never go. What did the Lord say in Sirach chapter 43 and 29 on down? I thought the Lord said you can never go far enough. But yet, certain men, they getting complacent. You don't feel that increase that you once felt when you came in. You don't feel that spiritual right? Just like you go into the gym, you feeling that burn, right? You might start crying out, Guess what? You don't feel that spiritual right? Thing, you just going through the motions. Going through the motions, going through the flow. Guess what? There's no rest here. Let's bring that out in Micah chapter 2. Right? Let's bring this out in the book of Micah chapter 2 and verse number 10. All right, this is Micah chapter 2 and verse number 10, and it reads, arise ye and depart. Guess what the Lord said? You gotta get up and get out of here. And for you to get up, it requires you to wake up. A lot of you brothers, you sleep. You still sleep, man. Wake up. Right? Get going. How long without sleep, O sluggard? It says, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. Guess what? If nobody ever told you, we here to tell you today, you never gonna get rest in America. As long as you in this fleshly body, in this captivity, there's no such thing as rest. Right? That's physically. And it's also spirit. Even physically, you can't even get a good night's rest. You in the bed, you tossing, you turning. Certain brothers have demons trying to hop on them in their night. They got to get up. You might have a bad dream. You waking up, sweat all over your face. Right? You can barely get a good rest in. Your back hurting. Your knees hurting. So even on a physical level, it's no rest here. How much more on a spiritual level? You're going to be attacked spiritually every single day. Right? You're going to be put in situations and the odds might be against you, but you got to overcome every single day. These different things is gonna happen. And if you get comfortable, the moment you yield, guess what? You might not make it. Reading on. It shall destroy you, even with a sword of destruction. So guess what? If you don't stop being complacent, comfortable, right? Taking your ease, taking breaks off. Like we said earlier, it's no vacation sentence. This truth. You don't get a 2-week vacation, paid time off. This not your job, man. This is the Most High's business. You read about certain accounts of these men. We just read in Luke chapter 12 what the man said. He didn't even know that the Lord, well, that same night he said that, the Lord required his spirit of them. Let's bring this out in the book of Proverbs, chapter 24. Right? Proverbs chapter 24 and verse number 30. I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns and nettles. And nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. So Solomon said he went by the field of the slothful, by the vineyard of a man void of understanding. It was nothing but thistles, thorns. Things was all over the place. Right? Things broken down. It says what? Verse 32. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. What did Solomon learn from this? Verse 33. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one travaileth, and thy want as an armed man. All it takes is a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands. You putting things off when you know you could get it done today. Whether that's praying, fasting, reading, exhortation. Things that's going to help get you that boost through the spirit. The Lord said all it takes is a little folding of the hands. That little yawn, right? You know what I'm talking about. You start yawning, right? That spirit of deep sleep comes upon you. You start stretching out. Your toes start to get cracked. And the Lord not dealing with spiritually cracking your toes. Or else, guess what? Thy poverty is going to come, right, as a man that travaileth. And guess what? You're going to be caught out there in the land of the living. Let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Right? Let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse number 12. Right, this 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse number 12. Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. And you don't want to be that brother. You thinking you standing, but whole time you about to fall. You don't perceive it because you never examine yourself. Right? You stop praying as much as you used to. You're not your old self anymore. How you first came into this thing. You got complacent. You took your ease. You didn't get that increase. Right? And you need an increase, man. Without it, guess what? Because when you complacent, when you comfortable, guess what? It's only two ways. You're either going to stay the same or you're going to go down. Guess what? The Lord said, wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. And if you finding yourself in this moment, guess what? Take heed lest you fall. And everybody that, guess what? A just man falleth 7 times. But guess what? Everybody's not a just man through the spirit. Some people, they fall and they can't get back up. Just like that commercial, right? With the old people on it. What's that? Life alert? I fall and then I can't get up. You don't want to be like that in the truth. All because you were complacent. Right? You was comfortable. You got comfortable. You had thoughts of being comfortable. Again, guess what? It's no days off. Let's go to the book of Esther, chapter 9 and verse 4. Let's go to the book of Esther, chapter 9. It's the book of Esther, chapter 9 and verse number 4. And it reads, "For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went throughout all the king's provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater." Guess what? Mordecai, he waxed greater and greater. Mordecai wasn't complacent. He wasn't Mordecai. Mordecai could have got comfortable, man. When you think about it, he just got victory over his Jews, over his enemies, right? It was already a decree written that it should be a day of gladness, right? He was literally set up over Haman. Mordecai could have took he could have took ease. Just being realistically, he could have put his hands back. But guess what? Still throughout all of that, him being in a lower state and in a higher state, and that's what it really matters when the highest state. Guess what? Mordecai, even in his highest state, he still waxed greater and greater. So don't feel like, guess what? I have this now. Car, house, food, flowing steady income. Everything's going smooth, right? No evil is touching me. Because what? The Lord could require that of you that night. Have all hell to break loose. And the question is, are you going to continue to wax greater and greater like Mordecai through the midst of that? Let's go to the book of Job. Right? Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 1 and verse number 20. Right? This Job, chapter 1 and verse number 20. And it reads, "And Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell upon the ground in worship." Now this is after Job is catching hell. Job is already in an uncomfortable state. He lost his kids. He lost his cattle. Right? Damn, his house caved in. Right? Job, he already uncomfortable. He already low. Jumping down to Job chapter 2 and verse number 7. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with the sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took a posture to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the hashes. So guess what? All right, after that, Job got smitten with boils. Then as you read on, his woman told him to curse God and die. So guess what? What do you learn from this? Guess what? Job couldn't be comfortable. And not only that, Job got comfortable with being uncomfortable. Imagine you got boils all over your face. You got to go to work. Got to go to camp. Hitting up the feast days. You're going out and about. You have nothing but boils on your face. You lose everything. Your wife, she turned against you. She fall out the truth. A lot of you would give up. You would fall out this thing. Get comfortable in the world again. But guess what? Job, he bared it on his shoulders. Right? He took it on, he put it all on his chest. Guess what? Job, he was used to it. That's what you got to be in this truth. You got to be used to it. Right? Guess what? When things is not going your way, when all hell is breaking loose, instead of complaining, stand saying, why me? Just say, I guess what? I'm used to it. Because what you looking for on a deeper level, when you say that, you looking to be comfortable. You looking to have ease. You got to replace that and say, hey, I'm used to it. Right? Because Job, he was used to it. Right? Let me bring this out. Right? Let me bring this out in the book of Luke chapter 2. What was he used to? Sufferings. What was he used to? Uncomfortability. Hardships. Pain. That's what he was used to. Let's go, Slocky, let me go to the book of Hebrews. Right? Let me go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 5. It's the book of Hebrews, chapter 5, and verse number 7. Who in the days of his flesh, talking about Yahushua, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with strong crying and tears unto him that was able to save him from death, he was heard and that he feared. Though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. So guess what? Yahushua, he was used to it, man. The blood, sweat, and tears, the crying. And guess what? He learned obedience through those manyfold sufferings. Why? Because he was already used to it. And that's the mindset you have to have. Let me go to the book of Philippians. Thinking of a lot of precepts. Let me knock this one. Let me get this precept out the way. Let's go to Philippians chapter 3. Actually, let's go to 2 Corinthians. Right, let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. 2 Corinthians chapter 10. Like it, 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and 10. Right, it's 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and 10. Therefore I take pleasures in infirmities and reproaches and necessities and persecutions and distress for Christ's sake. When I am weak, then I am strong. So guess what? You got to take pleasures in infirmities. Like we saying, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's plain. Let's go to the book of Philippians. Right? Let's go to the book of Philippians. It's the book of Philippians, chapter 3, and verse number 12. Not as though I had already attained. So Paul said, I didn't even obtain this thing. Right? And when you get complacent, when you get comfortable, you saying deep down in your head, you already got the kingdom already. You already made it. Because you think you made it to this certain level. You might have had a goal for yourself in this truth. You made it past that goal, whatever it was. Right? You put down the marijuana for a certain period of time. The fornication, the lust, the slothfulness. Now you saying what else? Guess what? You had that comfortability mindset. You basically saying you already got the kingdom already. That's what you basically saying. Guess what? Paul said what? I have not obtained. Not as though I had already obtained. Either were already perfect, but I follow after, if that I may apprehend, for which also I am apprehended of Christ Yahushua. Brethren, I count not myself to apprehend it, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. And that's what you have to do, man. No such thing as being comfortable in this thing, right? It's no such thing as taking days off, of taking a rest. Are you telling me everything that the Lord has done for you and you want to take a rest? Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 16 and 1. How the Lord brought you from being nobody. You used to be a sinner, a chief sinner in the world, a wicked man, and idolatry, chasing women, chasing the checks, the money, popularity, idolatry, these different wickedness, and you want to be complacent? Let me bring this out in 1 Kings chapter 10, 1 Kings chapter 16 and 1. This 1 Kings chapter 16 and 1. Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, the son of Hananiah, against Baasha, saying, for as much as I exalted thee out of the dust. Hey, the Lord brought you from the dust, man. You used to be homeless. Did you forget that? You didn't have nowhere to go. You was on the streets. A certain men, they was on the streets, man. Right? They didn't have no home. They had dirty clothes. They didn't have nothing. Didn't have no knowledge. Didn't have none physically. Didn't have none spiritually. Yet you get it and you want to be complacent? Guess what? You can't forget where the Lord took you from. And if you forget that, that's when that mindset, being comfortable, comes in. That's why the topic of this cold cut is you better not get comfortable. I'm going to read that again. For as much I exalted thee out of the dust and made thee prince over my people Israel, and thou hast walked in the way of Jeroboam, and hast made my people Israel to sin, to provoke me to anger with their sin. And guess what? Let me bring this out inside rap. You should be ashamed of yourself if you forget where the Lord has brought you from. Can't forget that. It's the book of See What I Want. What is this? What I Want. This the book of Sirach, chapter 18 and verse number 25. Sirach 18 and 25. When thou hast enough, remember the time of hunger. The Lord said, guess what? Hey, when thou hast enough, remember the time of hunger. When you feel like you made it, you have to remember those times when you didn't have it. When you was crying, when you was broke, when you didn't have the knowledge that you have now. The wisdom, the understanding. You wasn't doing the work of an evangelist, right? The acts of the mighty prophets. Doing the works, following in the footsteps of Yahushua himself. Guess what? The Lord said when you full, remember the time of hunger. It reads, and when thou art rich, think upon poverty and need. From the morning until the evening, the time is changed, and all things are soon done before the Lord. The reason why he tell you to think upon those things, because when you think upon those things, those times when you didn't have it, it's going to cause you to be grateful and cause you to go harder. Versus you forgetting where you came from, you're going to end up getting what you get. You're going to think you have enough. You're going to be comfortable. You're going to be complacent. You're going to say you have enough in this truth. And guess what? The Lord is going to require that of you. Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 2. It's the book of Luke, chapter 2, and verse number 52. And Yahushua increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and man. So the Lord himself, he increased. The Lord wasn't complacent, man. It's always more for an increase. It's more things to learn. It's more experiences to experience. Right? When you read Genesis chapter 5, going into the genealogy of the sons of God, how those men lived, Noah lived 500 some years old when he began Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And 500 years old, Noah was still learning new things. Can you imagine that? A 500-year-old man still learning new things, experiencing new things. Things that somebody that's in his 50s may never experienced. What do that tell you? It's always room for improvement. It's always room to go harder. It's always room to press forward to the mark. It's always the new experience to experience. It's always more scriptures to read, more praying to do, more fasting to do, more building up the communities, more speaking for the youth. It's so many things. Man's heart can't even utter it. But guess what? You have to be like the Lord himself and continue to get that increase. Let's go to the book. Shalakia. Let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 9. Let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 9, and verse number 22. Right? Let's go to the book of Acts, the 9th chapter. It's the book of Acts, chapter 9, and verse number 22. But Saul increased the more in strength and confounded the Jews which go at Damascus, proving that this is very Christ. So guess what? Paul, he was still increasing right after he just got his eyes unblind by the high priest. So what are you going to do? Are you going to get comfortable? Are you going to stay comfortable? Or are you going to go get that increase? Are you going to go press toward the mark? Are you going to go get everlasting life that might have been predestined from the foundation of the world laid up for you? Which one? What is it going to be? The choice is yours. Let's bring this out in the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9. This is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse number 24. Right? I believe that's Slakia. See what I want. Right? I'm going to bring this out, then I'm going to get another precept. It's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and 24. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? Right? People in the world, they run and they look to get a prize on a physical level, on a carnal level. It says, so run that ye may obtain. Meaning what? And this truth, you got to run. You got to fight. You got to press toward the mark. Let me bring this out in the book of Philippians, right? Chapter 3. It's Philippians chapter 3 and verse number 14. This is what Paul said. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God and Hamashiach Yahushua. I'm going to read that again. I press toward the mark for the prize. So Paul is not complacent. He said, I'm not complacent. Neither am I going to get complacent. Get comfortable. I'm going to continuously press toward the mark. And that should be every brother and sister's mindset in the last days. It's pressing toward the mark. Pressing toward the finish line. Go out there, go getting it. Accomplishing those spiritual goals. Overcoming the flesh. Putting the flesh into subjection. Mortifying your members. Because you want to press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God and Hamashiach Yahushua. But with that, Lord willing, this video is edifying. Continue to read, pray, fast, and study, and trust in the Most High God more than ever. More importantly, beseech the Heavenly Father for His mercy. And with that, I'm going to give a hearty shalom.